Boo! Oh, sorry, did I scare you? Well, good, because it's Halloween! Now, despite the fact I absolutely adore horror, especially horror games, I'm actually not the biggest fan of this season. Listen, please calm down. I'm more of a Christmas fella myself, which is why I'm not going to be talking about horror games in this video. Instead, I want to talk about shit that freaked me out in non-horror games, because I absolutely love it when games that aren't inherently horror games take a horror approach to certain levels or set pieces. Now, let's not waste any more time, and let's talk about some of my favorite ones. Not exactly sure how to transition here. I'm sure I'll think of something while I'm editing. If you've played Half-Life 2, which you probably have, you already know that I'm gonna be talking about Ravenholm. Like, come on now, it's obvious. I'm getting the obvious one out of the way. Half-Life 2 is already kind of a pretty fucked up game, but not in a horror way. You do fight shit like zombies and headcrabs before this point in the game. I mean, just look at these little spindly twats. They're truly horrifying, but also kinda cute. I don't know what it is about them. I kinda want one in real life. Well, when you get to the chapter rightfully named, We Don't Go to Ravenholm, you already know this shit is gonna be fucked. The chapter literally begins with a much darker feel compared to the previous chapters you just experienced. And I'm not just talking about the time of day here.
Great. Dark spirit,
Seriously, the first thing you're gonna see is someone's lower half just hanging there.
How's it angling?
It's pretty fucked up. Ravenholm used to be a mining town, but now it's just absolutely overrun with zombies. In fact, in this chapter, you are actually introduced to a special type of zombie. The bloody fast ones. I fucking hate these guys. Listen, Ravenholm is pretty fucked up, and you've probably already experienced it yourself. And personally, I don't want to play much more of it, but I just want you all to know that I got the achievement for beating it with only the gravity gun. I really hope you're all proud of me. A Hat in Time, an amazing 3D platforming game that I could recommend to anyone. I'm fairly certain the only people who can dislike this game are heartless monsters. A Hat in Time oozes with so much charm and personality, from its incredible fucking soundtrack to its vibrant visual style. It's just so fucking good. Well, you're probably wondering what could possibly be horror related in a game like this. Well, in the forest world, there's a certain mission that I'm going to be talking about, but I'll get to that. First, I just want to say that the foresty area is already kinda spooky, but not in the horror way, if that makes sense. It's still got the same feeling and style as the other worlds before it, just a little bit darker. Well, anyway, the certain mission I'm going to be talking about from the forest area is called Queen Vanessa's Manor. Now, right off the bat, it doesn't seem too bad. I mean, the manor is pretty ominous looking, but hey, it still isn't really scary. Obviously, we don't go through the front door of the manor. Instead, we take the entrance to the basement, and as soon as we enter, we get this lovely artwork for the mission. It doesn't seem too bad, right? We work our way through the basement, getting to the first floor of the manor, and yeah, it still doesn't seem too bad. I guess the music is kind of creepy, but hey, oh god, oh what the fuck? What the fuck is that thing? Holy shit! In Vanessa's Manor, you have to sneak around acquiring keys to open up doors to progress. Sounds pretty simple, right? Well, these keys are in some of the most inconvenient fucking locations, requiring you to make as much sound as humanly possible to acquire them, causing that fucking thing to come looking for you, meaning you have to hide as soon as you make any form of sound. It's not exactly a hard level, don't get me wrong, but this shit was a huge shock to the system on my first playthrough. I was so happy to get that timepiece and get the fuck out of there. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, an absolutely stunning game with so many vibrant colours, a game aimed at an audience of 7 years and up, so of course it's basically a lovely stroll through the whole thing, right? Right? Well, it basically is, up until you get to a place known as Kadaro Station. Now, at first glance, it doesn't really look like much, it's just a random station suspended in the middle of an ocean somewhere. And yeah, it's all bright and colourful and gorgeous looking, which is basically the standard for this game. The station is pretty heavily guarded by enemies. Enemies that you've already fought about a million times before up until this point. Something you'll probably noticed while fighting the enemies is this gated off elevator. There isn't much you can do with this, so the only place you you can go is up the stairs into the only interior area, which is where you find this funky purple crystal. Obviously you smack that shit, which causes dimensions to completely change on the spot, thanks to the stupendous PlayStation 5 SSD. Shame no one can get one. Well, in this dimension, the tone is completely different. The station is abandoned. No one is about. You feel completely isolated. Instead of it being bright and vibrant, it has this cold color palette, adding to the isolation. It's cold and empty. Well, I mean, at least the lift is open now, and the lift takes you deep down to the bottom of the ocean. Again, everything is completely abandoned down here. I mean, I guess there are some little green amoeboids that want to nibble you to death. Honestly, I always found these things kinda scary as a kid. But we're not talking about those little things right now. The further into the station you get, you meet this robot guy who guides you about a bit, but it all leads up to this cutscene.
What is that?
That is Juice, my best friend. He tries to kill me sometimes, but he is a great listener.
Yeah, that's Juice. He isn't friendly. He basically acts like a fucking stalker enemy. You know, the stalker enemies you'd find in a horror game. You know, the fucking unkillable ones. The ones that come in at some of the worst fucking moments possible. Juice alone adds so much tension to this level. It feels like something completely unique for Rift Apart. Hell, even the series as a whole. Needless to say, I had my ass clenched the entire time playing through this level. It has such an incredible unsettling atmosphere, and a stalker monster that wants nothing more than to kill you. Exactly what you'd expect to find in a kid's game. LittleBigPlanet is all about creativity and imagination. The game has an amazing create mode with so many community levels. Of course that means there is a lot of absolute dog shit about, and no, I'm not going to be talking about one of those fucking Survive Jeff the Killer levels or whatever they're called. Instead, I'm going to be talking about an entire story world from the original game, The Wedding. Now, this entire section has very strong theming of like skeletons and death and just horror shit to begin with, but it's not bad in the slightest. In fact, the first level is incredibly upbeat. It's a wedding after all. You're supposed to be having a good old time. Later through the level, we learn that the groom has gone missing and we need to find him, which leads on to the second level of the wedding, which is rightfully named The Darkness. You get it? Because it's so fucking dark. I mean, just entering this level alone, the tone is a complete shift compared to the first level of the wedding. You feel so alone and isolated, but with this ominous present that something could be following you. Luckily though, you aren't alone. You have this silly little dog with a light on its head as company, and you cannot abandon this fella because he is your only source of light. The slow pace while riding the dog adds to this creepy horror atmosphere. You're just taking it all in and you really don't want to be there. Halfway through the level, your dog friend gets fucking yoinked, so you're left all alone in this dark place. At this point in the level, you kind of just want to get the fuck out of this place as fast as you can. It really makes you miss the gardens from earlier. You do eventually find the groom, but you also find this fucking thing that just jumps out at you randomly. That's the final boss of the wedding, by the way. It's a bit of foreshadowing, and he's pretty horrifying looking, right? Playing this level as a kid was a complete shock to the system. I was not expecting this shit. It freaked me out a lot, so thank you Media Molecule for giving me and probably so many kids around the world childhood trauma. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video, and I hope it's gotten you ready for this spooky day. I hope you all have an incredible Halloween, and if you have any horror moments from non-horror games that you want to talk about, let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear them. Okay, now I'm not gonna finish this video with a jump scare like I did with the intro. That would be incredibly cheap now, wouldn't it?